Something I hated about being a realtor in 2022, bidding wars. If you were buying in 2022, you know that you were up against heavy competition all the time. Bidding wars means crazy special terms. It means constantly having to meet a deadline. It means being nervous all the time because you know that there are a bunch of other people who want the same house as you. The pressure was always on and buyers are always scared. So bidding wars. I hated bidding wars. Another thing I hated about being a realtor in 2022 were other realtors. We talk about this all the time, Derek and I. Everybody hates realtors and we get it. We also do hate realtors. In this year, in 2022, the first half of it, what we had a lot of was real stuck up listing agents. We had that seller's market where the seller's side had all the leverage. And a lot of times that equaled like, hey, I have a question about the property. Figure it out yourself, idiot, because I'm the listing agent and sellers rule the world. So sellers agents did have kind of the leverage to not work as hard. Like, let's be real. It was a lot easier to be on the sell side than it was to be on the buy side. And if you work with our team, you know that I primarily help a lot of the buyers. So this past year has been freaking stressful being primarily a buyer's agent, an agent who loves working with buyers. So it was hard, and it was not made easier by realtors on the other side who didn't care to answer your phone calls, didn't care to answer your questions, didn't care what your background was or what your story was. It was bottom line, numbers, profits. We have 50 other people who want the house if you don't. So if you don't like this one thing about it, too bad, we'll move on because we have somebody else. So other realtors who are kind of assholes didn't like that about 2022. Something else I hated in 2022, getting on YouTube as a real estate agent. Not something I originally thought I was going to do. Dope, don't get me wrong, love it now. But I mean, having to make sure your hair acts right. Okay, like the one time I got highlights the day we were shooting and it came out way too damn late and I had to do our whole Opili video. I'm sure Kenji will put a link somewhere to show you how awful my hair was in that video. Having to care about what you look like for me in 2022 because you're now on YouTube. Hate it. Another thing I hated about being a realtor in 2022 was buyer FOMO. When you are in a heavy seller's market and you are consistently competing against other people, you get fatigued as a buyer, you get FOMO. We were telling our clients a lot of the time, like, don't fall in love. We're going to be cautiously optimistic. That's the term I use all the time with people is we're going to be cautiously optimistic, but we're human. You can't help it. Sometimes you just fall in love with the house. A lot of times it took a lot of heartbreak, a lot of FOMO before actually finding something that we would win and get into escrow on. A lot of brokenhearted buyers in 2022 in the first half, especially. So I hated having to give my buyers disappointing news. Another thing I hated about 2022 real estate, seller who just decided I should have sold 6 months ago. I said I hate buyer FOMO at one point in this video. I also hate seller FOMO. So the same house that might have been sold like that, 6-12 months ago, is sitting a little bit longer now, and sellers who maybe were waiting for a better time or just for whatever reason thought like, not yet, we're going to wait a little while. And now they're in a position of like, oh crap, we waited too long. We should have sold back then. That doesn't mean it's a bad time to buy. It doesn't mean it's a bad time to sell. Would it have been more advantageous as a seller when we were in an extremely crazy seller market? Yes, for sure. We're never going to lie to you and say that that's not true. However, there are still ways to be successful as a seller now if selling is the right decision for you guys. So yeah, seller FOMO. I hate seller FOMO with the shift of the market for 2022. Another thing I hate about being a realtor in 2022 is a shifting market and fear. A lot of like fear in the air, a lot of just fear-based conversations, a lot of fear-based, like being led to a certain way. And again, that can kind of tie back into shitty realtors. So when you're in a fear-based shifting market, sometimes you'll have people who are still trying to aggressively sell, and they'll do this by, saying certain things. Like when we were kind of experiencing this shift, somebody who may have been telling them like, oh, I'm not sure I want to buy. And they're like, all right, but the market's shifting, so you better do it right now because you'll never be able to do it again. Just that type of exploitation of the changes in the market to play on people's emotions and fear. We saw a lot of that. We still see some of that in a shifting market. So something I hate is just like when people play on a shifting market to instill fear and use that fear that they know exists in their buyers and sellers to kind of push them in a different direction. When you're in a shifting market, it's important to have somebody who is going to explain to you the worries that come up from, what that means for you as a buyer, what that means for you as a seller. But you never want to have somebody who's convincing you and feeding into your apprehension and fear. Instead, you want to have somebody who's kind of like a shining light to guide you through that, to answer whatever questions you might have so that you aren't scared to move forward. So yeah, shady conversations based on fear. We don't like that. I hated that in 2022. Another thing I hated about real estate in 2022 was wild special terms. Now this is paired with being in a crazy seller's market. So having to, as buyers, kind of concede so many things just to even be considered, to even get your offer looked at. I hated that. At the time when I came into real estate, that's just the nature of the market. It was the way that it was. And now that it isn't that way anymore, I look back on that time in the market and I'm thinking, oh my God, like that's insane. I can't believe we had to do that. Like to say off the bat, even though you know that this is a fixer upper, even though you know, because you've walked through it, you've seen like, oh man, that needs to be fixed. That needs to be fixed. Obviously that hasn't been maintained. This HVAC system is 20 years old. It's probably ready to go. But even knowing those things, walking into something, if I saw that there were 25 other buyers who are also looking at it and who are also going to be writing offers on it, I probably would have said, buyers a lot of times would say, we will not ask for credits or repairs as a result of the home inspection. Now that is you saying that whatever needs to be fixed, whatever the problems are that come up in the home inspection, we'll handle it. Of course, you have the opportunity to walk away if whatever those problems end up being are just too great, like too big of problems for you to want to deal with. But a lot of times it was just our buyers being like, whatever, like we don't care. We'll fix it. We'll take care of it. You guys don't got to worry about it. How can we stand out? How can we just make our offer stand out against 20 other offers? So crazy special terms in 2022, hated that. Another thing I hated about 2022 in real estate was aggressive deadlines. So for me, okay, because I represent a lot of our buyers, having a super specific deadline when we knew that offers were due by a certain time, say our buyer comes up to us on a Tuesday and is like, oh my gosh, I really like this one. Oh, but we see that offers are due on Wednesday or Thursday or whatever it might be. It's like, oh my God, how do I get in there for a tour, see if they actually like it, get a pre-approval drafted, get everything we need to submit this offer in time before their deadline. So offer deadlines, which were heavily used back when the market was a little bit more weighted towards the seller side. We still see them from time to time. They won't be as aggressive as they were before, but we'll still see them. But feeling pressured to make a decision on whether or not they wanted to make $1 million purchase on something because the deadline was coming up. So super aggressive, tight offer deadlines in 2022, hated them. Okay, something I hated about being in real estate in 2022 because of how quick everything was going for me personally, it made it hard for me to juggle time with my family. So when you're an agent, a producing agent in a market that everything is moving really quickly, deadlines are super tight, things need to be done very, very fast all the time, or else your clients are missing out on deals because it's so competitive. It made it very hard for a person like me who obsesses over everything I do to figure out how to balance being a committed agent and helping my clients and being a committed and present mother. So that was really hard to balance in 2022. But to be fair, I was very new to the industry and just figuring out my bearings to begin with. Already leading into the new year, I'm a lot better at that. I appreciate my team, the support that we have on our team, the new pieces that we've added, the leverage that we have now. Makes life amazing, a lot better. But being a realtor in 2022 was rough, especially if you have a family and you're out there in these streets doing all these showings, driving to all these places. So yeah, that was hard. Something that I hated about 2022 was being newer to the industry in a really fast seller's market. And then being somebody who represented primarily buyers. Like if you're good, if you're learning and you got a good mentor and you're using the words and you're having the conversations, it's not always evident right off the bat that you're new. However, your license number is always going to be your license number. So if your license number is a lot higher than somebody else's, there are certain agents who would just be like, I'm not even going to bother with you because you are a brand new agent. So I'm not even going to talk to you, When you write a good contract, a clean contract, and you are a good negotiator and you give a shit about your clients and you're a squeaky wheel who gets the oil, and you represent their best interests, people will respect you and be nice to you. But it was hard breaking into the industry as a newer agent, as a local girl, as a tattooed, loud personality with piercings who dresses weird. It was difficult in 2022 to break in and to be taken seriously by some other agents. So hated that. Don't really deal with that anymore too much, thankfully. I'm very grateful to have been able to just do me. Something that I hated about 2022, having to relearn the island for me personally. If you watch our YouTube, you may already know that I am directionally challenged. I did not descend from Voyagers is what the joke is on our team. So something that was hard for me was moving back to Oahu and being in real estate and relearning how to get everywhere with brand new neighborhoods that have now popped up since the last time I've lived here. All of Eva Beach, all of Kapolei, all brand new, all different routes. I got lost a ton of times. I had to relearn everything. So something that was hard for me in 2022 was driving because I'm already bad at it. Thankfully, GPS is a pretty neat trick now. But yeah, it was embarrassing for me. There is no amount of embarrassment and pressure that will ever measure up to me being followed by clients to whatever house we're showing and getting lost. And then me also having to parallel park with them as an audience to get to that house. So I think I tried like 4 times to parallel park that car. Really, I was like, screw it. I don't even need this. Like, I'm going to just quit my job and just leave the island and go back to Maui because this is too much. This is too embarrassing. I can't do it. But yes, driving in front of people, learning directions, having your clients follow you. Thankfully, I have relearned the whole island because I've driven all over the place now. If you end up working with me in the future and we are headed to showings, follow your GPS, do not follow me. All right, guys. Thank you for listening to me rant about 2022. Here's to an amazing 2023. We'd love to connect with you guys. Please, as always, check out the link below, fill out the contact form. Let's get on a virtual consult and talk story. All right. See you guys later.
How you doing?
Mountain behind us.
Connected with Derek, and Derek was able to help us sell my mom's childhood home.
I thought it was a great investment, which it is.
We had a great buying experience.
Very new to Hawaii. We met Derek and Mahe through their YouTube channel.
I'm in the Army, and Megan is a certified nurse.
Hi, I'm Neb.
And I'm Rachel, and we're going to be selling our Waikele home.
I work very heavily with Core Team Hawaii.
We bought a house from Core Team Hawaii here in Honolulu.
Even though we are here and we live here now, we own a home here, we still watch your videos. Yeah.